Welcome everyone to another episode of the Maha Report. Today I'll be talking about Man United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I know in my previous videos I've made some comments that probably didn't go down well, especially with the United fans, but I just think that they need to, sometimes we can get caught up in the current situation and forget the overall picture. So this is where I think the team is and the manager, and I hope you find that. I think it's something that quite a few people believe, but some people are buried their heads in the sand about. But I've got no issues looking at the facts as they are. And for me, I'm shocked that United are top of the table, or were till last night. But I'll be even more surprised if they're still in the title race by the end of the season, because overall they're not a team that, even though they have the players to challenge, I don't believe they're in the best situation, style of football, and long-term prepared to have a go at the title race and win ultimately. For me, I think the best solution for United fans this year would be having to make that difficult choice again, like they did a few years ago. You know, what's worse? Do you want City to win or Liverpool? And I'm sure they'd rather City win than Liverpool joining them on a number of league titles. And it all kind of starts really with the manager. And I have a lot of respect for Ollie. He's done a great, I think, cushioning job, if that's the right way of saying it, because he's taking on that was a clearly depleted or deflated team, and he's managed to get them rolling, and at least based on individual brilliance, performing to their best of their ability. But there is still, I don't see a long-term, a clear style of football, a plan of play, a philosophy. It all seems to be, it started off with a counter-attacking style, and now he's trying to implement, in my opinion, a brand of football that is not consistent. One week they're playing like a relegation avoiding team, they with so many men behind the ball in deep blocks, and then when there's games like this past weekend FA Cup tie, he finally lets loose and maybe starts to play football like the way United teams should be playing. For me, they're not in the title race. I know what the table says, but that's just based on circumstances of the other teams. You can't base it off counter-attacking football. And when you look at an individual brilliance, and when you look at, if you go through the squad, these are where I see the issues. And starting with the goalkeeper, we thought De Gea was done a few years ago, but I think he's coming back. He's still one of the best goalkeepers in the league, at least, and I don't think that's a priority at the moment. But when you start going through the rest of the team, you can see some holes. And let's go into that defence. For me, you can't get back that 85 million you paid for Harry Maguire. And I actually don't have an issue with Maguire. I think he just needs to find the right partner. I don't think Lindelof is the guy. They don't give you much confidence in that pairing. And I don't know what it is about Bailly, but I would love to actually see a proper run with Bailly and Maguire in that team. I know Meccano has been mentioned a few times, but I think other positions in the team need to be filled before they focus on the centre-back pairing again. And contrary to what most people think, in terms of the fullbacks, I think it's left-back position that needs more attention. But this goes back to the style of play, really, because I'm a huge fan of AVW, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think he does a great job on the right-hand side. If you look at his games for the last... he gets complacent against the so-called smaller teams, but when you look at his record head-to-head in the big games against some of the world's top left wingers, Neymar's, the name was, the Pulisic's, the Sterling's, the Mane's, the Aubameyang when he's been played out wide for Arsenal. It's pretty good. I think the only goals that they've conceded from that side of the pitch is from an Aubameyang penalty, which you can't really blame him for. So he's a record in a dozen of those games against all those top sides and in Europe has been impeccable. And for me, defending, it goes back to what I was talking about, Alexander-Arnold the other day. You have to be the best at your primary position. If you're a defender, you have to be able to be good at defending. I know the modern fullback goes forward and all that stuff, but if you can't do your primary role, eventually you get found out, and systems can't save you when managers leave and the quality around you leaves. This is what's happening at Liverpool. Whatever the situation at United, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is going to be a great defensive player, a great right back to me, and he's not the problem. For me, it's the left back. I get why they signed Telles, but also at the same time, I thought they needed a more defensive player to cover Rashford's failings on the left in terms from a defensive aspect. He is one of the least effective people in terms of helping his fullback cover and defend when you look at the stats. And what they needed really was a more solid left back. And the thing with Luke Shaw is I get he's improved, but it's still only one assist this year, and it's like going from shit to not bad, excuse the language, but you can't really praise him for going from okay to not bad, or whatever way you want to frame it. He's still not an elite left back. He's jack of all trades. He's okay at defending, he's okay at going forward, he's okay at distribution, whatever you want to say. He's not good at anything, and it just leaves a lot of confusion. And I think that's the position for me, the position next centre back position and left back position that needs to be addressed, more the left back before we go to the centre back position. Going into midfield, I know that United spent most of the summer trying to sign Jadon Sancho to fix that right side, to get a natural winger in, but the position I thought they most needed was a DM, and I don't mean a deep line playmaker, but a real ball winner like a Wilfred Ndidi, the Roy Keane from the past, that kind of player that really protected the back four. The people that have an issue at the moment with McFred, or McTominay and Fred, is why they both play and why they believe that both are not good enough is because United do not have a good DM, a good ball-winning defensive DM who properly protects the back four, and especially the centre-backs. And once you get a proper player in, then that navigates the whole McFred issue, and you don't have to play both of them. Ideally, you can have one guy sitting back, and then you can even push, solves a whole host of problems having to have Pogba playing in a pivot. He can push on forward and gives them more going forward. And I think if we get a more defensive left back, if they get a world-class DM, or one with that potential, the defense is well covered, and then you can push on with your with Pogba playing him further up front. You have Fernandes, you have Van de Beek, Rashford, and if it's Diallo, then so be it. But whoever plays on the right, and going forward, and I think that this is a primary thing, and I generally felt they missed out on Thomas Partey. While all the hoop was on the signing of Sancho, it was really the Partey signing that they really needed. And now that he's gone to Arsenal, they really need to find their equivalent. And for me, in the league anyway, it will be Wilfred Ndidi. I think he's brilliant DM, great ball winner, relentless. He will protect your back four. And also, I think that he's got the league experience. He's proven. There's no queries about whether he can make it in the Premier League and any question marks. But the price is going to be big. We know what Leicester charge for their players, and it's going to be very expensive. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close to the 50 to 80 mil mark. And I'm not sure you should be spending that money, especially United, again, on a defensive-minded player. I understand when you spend that money on attacking players, but not on a defensive player. So if United shouldn't spend 50 to 80 million on a DM or any kind of defensive player, what options are there? And I always say that when you're looking for a specialist in something, copy your competition or your rival. So when you think of a great defensive team, solid players of that caliber, what team do you naturally think of? For me, it's Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone, who's, you might as well say it's a speciality of his, and they've currently been trying to replace Thomas Partey. I think they've been struggling since he's gone, all the different dimension that he brings to the team and the solidity, and they've been looking at a player that they consider to be of similar potential, and that is Soumaré of Lille, and he's only 21. He's got all the skills that of Thomas Partey, and he's got great potential. And I think for United, it'll be easier to go and sign him for a much lower fee with the same potential. Of course, not proven as Ndidi, who has made his name in the league, but I think it's worth the risk. I don't think United should be playing 50 to 80 million for Ndidi, though. Having said that, we've seen what certain players can do and turn them into championship winning teams, like when Chelsea signed Kante. I thought that was a big signing back a few years ago. So for me, this is the solution in terms of dealing with the McFred issue. As United fans are tired of seeing them both play all the time. I don't have a problem with it personally, because I think it's clearly worked. It's helped them be stable, and they're up there fighting for the title at the moment. But long term, it's not an option. Neither player is good enough to, on their own, to protect that back four, to provide a solid base. And once United get a good DM, it will be a lot easier for other players to make progress in the team. And especially Pogba, if he stays, then that whole being forced to play in a pivot to make way should be set aside, and he can play on his favoured left-hand side of midfield with, I presume, Fernandes at number 10 as per before. And though I would love to see Pogba play at number 10 personally. And it would be a lot more of the United team that we all grew up watching under Sir Alex. Moving on, looking ahead to the front three. Obviously, we know about United's ultimately unsuccessful chase of Sancho last summer, and apparently Dortmund are ready to offload him for 88 million to recover their current losses, which are quite steep. But I don't think it makes sense after the signings of Diallo and a few other players that United go back for Sancho. Though, as a Premier League fan, I'm more than happy to see him here, and I think they should go with that. My concern is more up front and on the left, really, because the problem with Rashford, and I'm a big fan, but I don't think he's a starter. I don't think he fits on the left. Unless you get a proper defender, as I mentioned earlier, defensive left back. So somebody like Rashford, who is not great at helping track back, etc., can just risk it and go when going forward and joining the front, the strikers up front. when it comes to scoring goal opportunities, etc. So because he's not a natural left winger, he's not going to create great opportunities for you. And I think that while the emphasis has been on the right side, which is also something that needs to resolve. Hopefully, Diallo's the answer, the solution. They really need to review about Rashford on the left. I think he's a great impact sub. I think him and a few other players would be better coming off the bench, late in games. Tearing down tired, worn-out defenses, and it's not just Rashford. Last year Martial had a great, in my opinion, year up front and leading the line, and finally we saw his qualities and what he could do. But this season has been a bit off again, and I think looking at somebody like Cavani when he's come in and what a natural front man leader can provide, you have to ask the question, is Martial the long-term solution up front, and should they be looking at an out-and-out proper striker, not somebody drop backs and all this kind of stuff, just somebody who can maximise, if they are going to get proper wingers in with the crosses, etc. You have to wonder, should they go in the market and get another striker? Again, for me, everything starts at the back. I think these are all issues that can be worked on later on. The number one position for me that United need to fix is DM. They need to get rid of the McFred combination. They need to get Pogba to push forward, and just to change the style of football, because it's great. I know they've had success, but it's not the United way, and it's quite. I don't think most real fans are enjoying this at the moment. And while it's great to be at the top of the table, you deep down, this doesn't feel right, and they know that it's not right. Something's not right about the whole thing, and for long-term success, that goes back to looking at the manager and his philosophy and so on. But I don't think I don't know where the board are on that issue. So let's just pretend that Oli is going to be around for a while, and I think more than any other position, they need to address the DM position. Probably not this window, but definitely on the summer window.